What's up, world, and welcome to the ElevateMindz podcast, episode 12. I'm here with the regulars. I have a special guest. Her name is Nieves. Didn't know she wanted me to say her last name, but it's not, super important. But we have a special episode here talking about it's kind of an injustice kind of video in a way, but we're more speaking about the financial situation of the average person, average consumer, and the debt situation that we pretty much get into, try to get out of.
Yeah, and I'd like to start with a question for Nieves. I know she used to work for a collection agency, right, Nieves? We're not going to mention the name, but she used to work there. I know that you may have many questions like we do. So I'm going to start with the first one. I was asking her, what happens when someone steals your identity or somebody start buying things using your social security number, and then when you check your credit report, then you see that there are Sears or other places that you never asked for a credit card, and then you see those accounts open, and then they went to collection. What happened in those cases?
Well, the collection agencies actually call the clients, the people, and a lot of times what happens is they don't recognize the credit card. They don't recognize the bank. They've never used that kind of credit card or that bank. And then, basically it's called a dispute. So what they're doing is they're disputing the account. So in that case, you need documented information from them. So as long as they send, like we always ask, did you go to the police? Did you tell them that, your identity was stolen? And if they say yes, and okay, if you have that police report, we're going to need a copy of the police report. And anything else that you have that's for that purpose, then we need it. So just go ahead and take a photocopy of it and just send it to us by mail, or you can send it through via email or via fax. And once we receive it, then the department has the opportunity to research. And with that police report, it's very important because that means that it actually happened and you have the proof. At that point, if the dispute is in your favor, then the collection agency will take that off of your credit because it's not yours. If you don't send it in, which happens 98% of the time, you forget or you don't want to, or you feel whatever.
Or maybe you never fill out a police report.
Maybe you never did fill out the police report and you're just telling the collection agency that you did. In that case, it goes in favor of the company, the collection company. And then, they just keep calling you and calling you and calling you.
So you screw with that debt forever. You have to pay it because now they find you responsible for the debt.
You mean stuck?
Yes.
The debt. Stuck with it? Okay.
Yeah, you're stuck with it. And the thing is, most cases of that is people that are ready to buy a home or to make a big purchase, maybe a car. Homes is bigger. But what happens is they call all frantic saying, listen, this isn't mine. And I told you guys it wasn't mine. So then we go down to the notes and we see that we've asked them. We've disputed this account various times. And the thing is that they've never given us the information that we need to continue the search. Okay? So at that point, we just have to tell them, listen, if you need this to be paid, you need to pay it off, or you need to send us the information. If you send us the information, I cannot tell you how long it's going to take to get it off your record or to put on the credit bureaus that it was not yours. It was a mistake. I don't know how long that's going to take. That depends on you and the company, not the person who's talking to you on the phone.
Wow. Well, it's very important that if you find something weird when you do your credit reports, it's important that you take action immediately. Now, what happened if you have, and this is going to sound funny, but sometimes I have heard people that they have accounts in their credit report that don't belong to them. They are very aware they didn't do those purchases. They have not applied for those credit cards or whatever account is there. Maybe 1, 2, or even 3 accounts there that they know for sure they never opened those accounts. But the person is paying so good that it's even increasing the credit on that person. Will that be a good thing or a bad thing? Because some people do. Some people take other people's information. They open an account, but they pay good. They pay on time, and the account is being paid off, or they've been paying.
You mean the person that stole?
The person who stole the identity from the other person is doing an excellent job paying the debts back on time.
Even better than you.
Even better than you. What do you do? Is it a good thing anyway to report that person? What do you advise to the person that's listening?
That's coming from a Florida person, which Florida's the number one state for identity theft.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, if he's paying off my debt, I mean, I guess
my credit's increasing.
That's very good.
And it's risky too.
Maybe if you could find him, just tell him to pay all of your debt. I don't know.
Now, a very important question. I don't know if Marielle and Will has another questions for you, but I'm going to do my second question. How long does something that is in your credit, even if you paid it off and everything, and they give you the letter saying that it's paid off, how long does that stays in your credit?
Well, the credit bureau is never going to send you a satisfaction letter. That is the job of the company that is trying to collect. But basically, nothing comes off of your credit bureau.
They stay there forever?
It's either paid, satisfied, or not paid, unsatisfied.
Oh, man.
And that's what raises, but it's good because if you have a lot of accounts and they've all been paid, or you're paying very well, that raises your score.
So what about those debts that people say, after 7 years is going to be erased? Is that true?
No, it's just satisfied.
Just satisfied. So that's going to be like a label.
Yeah. When I worked at that big bank I used to work for, they see that it's still in your history. And so whenever you're trying to buy like a vehicle, or obviously a house, they comb through a little bit deeper of your history, and they can see, okay, so this guy had $2,000 in debt from this thing here, and he just decided, it'll disappear eventually, but they still see it, and they count that as like being irresponsible, and it can hurt you.
Wow, very interesting. Do you have any questions, Marielle?
I wanted to ask, is it true that depending on what you're getting a loan for, some pull back as far as 7 years, but others pull back as 15 years?
Once they have your credit report in front of them, they can go back as far as they want. Usually it's only, 3 to 7 years. If they see that from 3 to 7 years, you've been good on your accounts and you've paid on time.
And that's enough for them?
That's usually enough for them, yeah.
Is it true that if you owed, for example, you have a $1,500 debt, and then you said, let's make an agreement, like a deal, and then I'm going to pay that's how much I can afford. I can afford only $600 out of the $1,500. What will be my...
Okay. Okay, that would be to be determined. Usually the people that are on the phone talking to the clients, they don't have the ability to bring it down that much, but you can always find out from your manager if you can bring it down. Usually what we do is, how much can you pay? And then if they say, well, I can pay $600 on that account, that is determined, if we accept it or not, it's determined by the policy of the company. And usually that's not enough. You would probably be like $800. So what we usually do, or what I used to do, is I would find a number between $600 and $1,500 and try to, not try, but I would
work with the person and see
yes,
how
you
far
work
you
with
can
the
go.
person. you let them know 600 is just not good. It's not good enough. I'm so sorry. Can you do 850? And if they say yes, then what we try to do is go ahead and get a down payment for that day. And then the rest of the payments will be lower because of the down payment. If they say, well, I want to pay it off in 6 months. Okay, we'll do a down payment of so much. And then the difference, we can do it every for 6 payments. Now they can either do it weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, or every 15 days. And that's what we do. And when we have that all in the system, we send it to them in a letter telling them how much we're going to be taking out and the days that we're going to be taking it out.
Is there a limit on the amount of the installments that they can get?
No, there's no limit.
Oh, wow. So if I say, okay, I want to pay $10 a month, I can do that too?
Some agencies will let you do that. Others will not. Wow. We had as low as $5 a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's no excuse for people not to catch up with their debts.
Right.
I mean, really, you should have been paying your credit cards.
Yeah.
Right.
I can understand a car, the car payment. If you fall behind and they sold their vehicle and there's still a little bit of debt or something like that. That's a little harder, but
you sold the vehicle that's yours?
When the bank took
because
it away
they come
from
in
you,
repo, yeah.
They take it from you, they sell it, and then whatever the difference is, you still owe. That kind of I can understand, but like credit cards, like credit card debt that you just didn't pay off, but it just paid the bare minimum of $25 until you could at least get in a better financial situation.
Wow.
If you can't afford $25 a month, maybe you shouldn't have a credit card.
Exactly.
And then there's people that may owe $5,000, and they want to just get it out of the way, and will do what you call a deal, which and what we do is I had a payment that was $3,700 in one day.
Wow.
She said, I just want to take this off of here. I'm tired of this. Can we do an arrangement to where I don't have to pay so much? And I said, well, how does $3,700 sound to you? She said, absolutely. She says, you want my bank account? Take it out today. There's different. And now with tax season, it's really a good place to be during tax season because people want to get rid of their debt.
Yeah. This is a good season for people, for collection agency to be after the people. Now, I have another question. You may not know the answer. I hope you do. But is it true that these collection companies, they buy those accounts at a very low price? Because, correct me in this information that I have. According to my knowledge, if you owe money, like credit cards or whatever you owe, and the company that you owe that money to see that after 3, 6, 7 months, it's a loss for the company, they have like an insurance that they cover for those, losses. And then what they do, they sell those accounts that they already been paid by the insurance that this company has. Then they go ahead and still sell those accounts for whatever amount the collection company is willing to pay. And then the collection company tries to match up the amount that the person originally owes. And that's how they make their money, because they have to make money too. So can you expand on that? No,
you explained it very well. The insurance companies, that the banks or credit card companies, or even any store that sells merchandise that you can get a credit card from, they do have an insurance. Now, the insurance doesn't pay 100%. It may pay, I don't know. Let's just say it pays 85%. Well, because they have already that 85% of that amount that was owed, then they can sell it for a less amount to the collection agencies. The collection agencies pays them the 25% or whatever, and then it's up to the collectors to call these people and collect. And you're absolutely right. They do not take anything down. The good thing about this is that, and I've had this a lot, they'll say, but I only put $400 on that credit card. Why is it $750? Mm-hmm. Well, ma'am, There's this thing called interest and fees.
And fees.
Yes.
And those are the ones that can be eliminated from the account. If you ask that the fees can be taken off.
No, we cannot take the fees off.
The fees has to be paid?
No, we then do an arrangement with them where it's a lesser amount that they pay.
Yeah, the originating company can take the fees off before that point.
Yeah.
Oh, before
you can make a deal
selling
with
it.
them, and they will. They'll try and get you to pay that debt before it gets to the point where they have to go down that road. But once it's been sold off, that's a total debt.
But now we're talking fees, not interest rate.
Yeah.
They will not take the interest rate off.
No, I know. They won't. That's the
And
life
they won't take all
of
the
the
fees.
business.
They'll try to take something off to work with you.
That's so interesting.
My question is, now that we're having a whole lesson of how debt works and stuff, what I want to know is the injustice side of it. Your maybe some opinions that any of you guys might have on what it's like to be, sometimes hassled, when you receive the phone calls, what it's like to work in an environment like that. And, maybe some input on what, I guess, the stress that debt just causes for people in general, because it's a system. And at the end of the day, it's a system. And sometimes it's just not fair, in my opinion. But
Yeah, because if as we were saying before, if the insurance payer already for those accounts that they consider loss, then why they damage your credit so badly and they send you to collection besides damaging your credit? I know we have to be responsible, and God called us to be responsible, because when they came to Jesus, they said, do we have to pay tributes or taxes to Caesar? And then he said, show me a coin. And then when they show him a coin, he said, what is the image on the inscription on this coin? And they said, that's Caesar. Said, so give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. So we know that God is in that business too. He wants us to be responsible. But sometimes when people go through struggles in life, they lose their jobs or things that happen in life that can happen to anybody. I think that it should be like a different type of method that you can, like a law that can, if you have proof enough to show that you were not able to meet your responsibilities, that those cases in particular should be forgiven, especially because the company is already getting some money back from the insurance. I mean, and now for other people that are definitely irresponsible, that you see through the whole history of payments that they were always late, that they don't care. Every person should be considered for what they are, and not put everybody in the same bag, because not everybody's the same. That's my opinion.
No, that's a good opinion. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
I know.
What was this last hurricane that Puerto Rico got hit with? The really bad.
named after her.
Maria?
Oh, Maria. Okay, well, Maria.
Thank you, Maria.
There was a lot. There was a lot of people that we call in Puerto Rico also, because it's part of the United States, and they're really suffering. A lot of them have gone to Florida, to live with relatives until they can get back on their feet. They're trying to work in Florida to bring, to be able to pay. But a lot of people have lost their homes, have lost their cars.
That is an excellent example.
Yeah, but unfortunately, they're still responsible for that. Okay, so it's a hardship, and you can just say, well, okay, but just remember you'll be getting more calls. Just explain to each one that calls you, but it's going to go on forever until they pay the debt. A lot of times, you ask, well, do you have any family members that maybe can help you pay this debt? Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Usually they don't. It's their debt, and they don't want to hurt their children or ask their children or their parents for help, because they're probably in the same situation. So it's sad. It's sad that we get ourselves into this debt, the debt, whether it's because you're irresponsible or because of a tragedy. But bottom line is, you owe that money.
That's why we cannot play with the future. And when we are making decisions like that, that has to do with your finances, we have to really think it twice before we get into it. Because when you are getting into those kind of debts, you are really playing with your future, because your future is very uncertain. So we have to consider that when we're making those kind of decisions. So
I mean, it's pretty much sometimes it's kind of like a double-edged sword, the way that things work in this world sometimes, because when I worked at that bank, I was approving auto loans, and I guess the bright side of that bank specifically is they have a limit on what they approve as far as the interest, the APR, and that's their cap, but it still was like $23.99. And that's a high interest rate. And so when you're buying a vehicle, sometimes I saw one deal for a lady that came in that I just needed to verify something for her, and I gave her a call, and she was like, I'm so blessed that they approved this. I wasn't able to take my kids to school. I couldn't go to work. It was becoming a problem, and it was just, I literally was about to like break down, and they approved this car. And I'm looking at the interest rate, and it was like 23%. And I'm here like, in my head, before I even called her, I was like, this isn't fair for somebody. And then on her end of the call, it was more like it was a blessing. But, and this is why I say it's a double-edged sword, because, if a year later from that, she gets in a situation where she loses her job, and then now she's losing her car, and then not being able to work and do all this, because you can only depend on friends and family for so long. And then it starts to affect you. And so, the situation that I was reading on my phone just now, as of August of 2018, the average debt for Americans is $38,000.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And so, we're kind of in a position where $38,000, and that's not even including homes. That's just school, credit cards, loans, and all that stuff. And so, we've gotten into a position now where, it's like a system that's designed for us to have to be in debt. It used to be something where in the 50s, all the way through to some point in the 60s, where only one person in the household had to work. And now they at some point were like, well, let's send the woman to work and then just put them, charge more, because now there's more income in the house. And then, they started charging more for houses, more for cars, more for school, and everything just kept increasing. And they got to a point where that bubble was huge. It eventually popped. But, that's the situation we're in. And so, I know I can feel for the people that have to go through it, the debt. I've even had situations where I've done it. And I can also feel that's why when I've gotten phone calls over the phone, I'm not like, hey, man, why are you keep calling me? I tell you I can't pay. Like, I've never been like that. I always pick up the phone and I would be like, hey, man, I'm not working. I can't pay you. I know you got to keep calling, but put in your notes that you contacted me and I can't pay. And I try to keep it respectful, but I also know I've had friends that work in those environments, and they've had to deal with the darkness, the pit that is sometimes humanity. But I think that it's definitely something that, shows you, how dark humanity can be, but there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes we just have to like step back and maybe I don't need that car. Maybe I should get a cheaper car. Maybe I should not get this credit card so I can buy the new iPhone and all this new stuff. And not, there's sometimes just you got to reel it back a little bit, So, that's
you got to work the numbers.
Yeah.
Work the numbers.
I have also read that since 1965, our cost of living has gone up 64%. And our income has only gone up 18%. So that should tell you a lot about why we're in debt.
Yeah. Sometimes, like we were saying before, the subject that we normally talk about different things in life that has to do with injustice. And I believe that that's one of them. So the society is built in a way that it's like you have to live paycheck by paycheck. You really have to use wisdom, the wisdom of God, to stay to stand still and not fall into that trap, because it's really a trap. And for you that are listening, we're almost closing, and we want to thank Nieves for being with us. Nieves,
It was a pleasure.
thank you so much. But we want to give some words of encouragement to the people that are listening. If you're in that kind of condition that you feel like overwhelmed because you have too many debts, maybe because you are very young, or maybe you're older, but still you have not been able to understand the implications of making decisions when it comes to your money, don't feel bad. We all go through that. I think 99% of the people go through things like that, make mistakes. We don't think sometimes when sometimes we cannot see the difference between the needs and the wants. And we think that we can buy whatever we want because it's okay, everything's going to be fine, and we don't plan for the future. I used to be in that same type of group, and thank God he's teaching me slowly, and finally I'm learning that I need to be more responsible with my decisions for the future. And I've been learning a lot on how to be a good administrator of the money. And I have a verse for you from Proverbs 7:20 and Proverbs 17:16. I think they're very interesting. Proverbs 7:20 says, he took a bag of money with him and he won't come back home until full moon. Full moon is only once a month. That means that the person that is not wise, they get the money and bye. See you next month. I'm going to go spend everything I have. There's no money for savings. There's nothing. I mean, they live every moment, every instant of their life just spending and doing whatever because there's no future. Another proverb that I mentioned, 17:16, says, of what use is money in the hand of a fool, since he has no intention of acquiring wisdom? That says it all. So God wants you to acquire wisdom, and everything is in the scriptures. You can go through the whole book of Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Psalms, and so many other good books in the Bible that will teach you wisdom and how to apply that wisdom in your life in all areas, but specifically in your finances. So if anybody wants to add anything, so we're closing. We bless you in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, and we wish the best for you. And hopefully after you listen to the few advices that we're giving to you today, that you will be in a better shape now for the future to make better decisions. God bless you.
Alrighty.